Sayed Abbas Araghchi was born on December 5, 1962, in Tehran, in a country that was about to be violently remade. His childhood sits on the fault line between two Irans: the old monarchy that collapsed in 1979 and the revolutionary state that rose from its ashes. That timing matters, because Araghchi's entire life story is defined by one repeating theme: how power is built, defended, and negotiated in a system that believes survival is sacred. He's widely known inside Iran with the honorific Sayyid, a title commonly used for families who trace lineage back to the Prophet's household in Shia tradition. In the Islamic Republic's culture, that single word can quietly shape perception. It signals religious respectability, social weight, and a kind of inherited legitimacy. Araghchi is not a cleric, but he is a man who has always operated inside a political universe where religious symbolism and state authority are fused together. He came of age at the exact moment Iran became a revolutionary laboratory. The new state was not simply changing laws, it was trying to rewrite identity, loyalty, and the meaning of citizenship. Then, almost immediately, the Iran-Iraq War erupted in 1980 and consumed the country for 8 years. For Iran's ruling class, that war became a national trauma and also a national initiation ritual. An entire generation of officials earned credibility through the language of sacrifice, discipline, and existential threat. Araghchi belongs to that generation. As a young man, he served during the Iran-Iraq War and is associated with the Revolutionary Guards era of mass mobilization and defense of the revolution. This period is essential to understanding him because it built the psychological template that later defined his diplomacy. Iran is always under siege, and therefore every negotiation is not merely a deal. It is a battlefield with different weapons. After the war, Araghchi chose the long route: institutions, training, and fluency. He entered Iran's foreign ministry in 1989, not as a celebrity diplomat, but as a professional product of the system. Iran's diplomatic corps is not simply a normal civil service. It is an extension of national security. In practice, diplomacy in Tehran is often treated as a front line of state survival: part messaging, part bargaining, part strategic deception, part ideological theater. Araghchi learned how to operate in that world with unusual discipline. He studied international relations through the foreign ministry's own training pipeline, then continued academically inside Iran with a master's degree in political science. But what made him different from many officials was his decision to master the intellectual language of the West from the inside. He later pursued a doctorate in England at the University of Kent, where he focused on political thought, specifically the evolution of political participation in 20th century Islamic political thinking. That is not a random topic. That is the kind of subject a regime-trained mind chooses when it wants to understand how religion, state, and people can be fused into a single system of authority. In simple terms, Araghchi did something rare. He studied how Islamic politics justifies power, how participation is defined, and how legitimacy is manufactured. That makes him more than a negotiator. It makes him someone who understands the philosophical architecture behind modern political Islam, how it explains itself, defends itself, and adapts under pressure. His English became fluent and precise. His style became controlled. He developed the manner of a man who can sit in a room with Western diplomats, speak their language, use their concepts, and still remain loyal to a completely different worldview. That blend, technical Western fluency with revolutionary state loyalty, is the reason he kept rising. Throughout the 1990s and 2000s, Araghchi moved through key foreign ministry roles that quietly built him into a strategic operator. He served in positions connected to multilateral diplomacy and Islamic international forums, then rose into policy and research leadership. One of his major steps was becoming Iran's ambassador to Finland from 1999 to 2003. To outsiders, Finland might sound like a minor post. In reality, for Iran, European postings are training grounds. You learn how Europe thinks, how sanctions operate, how quiet pressure works, and how to keep relationships alive in hostile environments. After Finland, he returned to Iran to take senior administrative and training roles, including a period leading diplomatic education inside the system. That role matters because it places someone at the center of how the state reproduces its next generation of diplomats, what they are taught, what they are told to value, and how they are instructed to defend the regime while appearing normal to the world. Then he became Deputy Foreign Minister in the mid-2000s. This was the era when Iran's nuclear file was hardening into one of the most explosive global disputes of the century. The nuclear issue was never just about centrifuges. It was about sovereignty, deterrence, and identity. Iran's leadership saw the nuclear program as proof they could not be pushed back into submission. The West saw it as a threat that could permanently rewrite the Middle East's balance of power. In that collision, diplomats like Araghchi became the interface between potential war and uneasy compromise. From 2008 to 2011, Araghchi served as ambassador to Japan, another deceptively important post. Japan is a major energy buyer, a technology power, and a state deeply connected to the US-led order. For Iran, Japan is a place where you test whether you can maintain relationships under American pressure. It is also where you learn how economic dependency, banking systems, and sanctions enforcement operate in practice. A diplomat who survives in Tokyo learns to negotiate not only with governments, but with financial realities. In the early 2000s, he became one of Iran's key senior deputies for Asia-Pacific affairs, and then returned again to the very core of the foreign ministry's political machinery. By 2013, he was both a deputy foreign minister and a spokesman, two roles that require different skills: internal authority and external persuasion. As spokesman, he learned how to weaponize language. In Iranian statecraft, words are not simply explanations. They are tools to shape the battlefield of perception. Then came the defining stage of his global reputation, the nuclear negotiations that led to the 2015 agreement known worldwide as the JCPOA. Araghchi became one of the central Iranian figures in the talks with major world powers. In those negotiations, he developed a reputation among supporters as a disciplined professional who could extract concessions without surrender. Among critics, as a regime loyalist using diplomacy to buy time and reduce pressure. To understand his role, you need to understand the Iranian negotiating mindset. Iran's system does not send negotiators to make peace. It sends them to protect the revolution while obtaining relief. Their job is to reduce immediate danger while keeping long-term, strategic flexibility. Araghchi became known as technically knowledgeable and psychologically steady, someone who did not collapse under pressure, did not explode emotionally, and did not get trapped by Western framing. The mind-bending part is this: Araghchi represents a class of modern officials who can operate inside two realities at once. In Western rooms, he can speak in the language of international law, verification mechanisms, and diplomatic normalcy. At home, he functions within a revolutionary ideology that believes global order is dominated by hostile powers and that survival requires resistance. He is a translator between worlds that do not trust each other, and he does it without appearing like a traitor to either side. His religious stance, as seen through his public alignment and institutional position, fits the Islamic Republic's ideological core. Shia political identity, loyalty to the state's revolutionary narrative, and acceptance of the supreme leader's central authority in national strategy. He's not a preacher, but his career makes clear that he operates comfortably inside the logic of the system, where religion is not separate from politics, and legitimacy is inseparable from the revolution's story of resistance. After the nuclear deal, Araghchi remained a senior figure, later becoming political deputy at the foreign ministry. But the political environment shifted. When the United States withdrew from the nuclear agreement in 2018 and reimposed harsh sanctions, the entire concept of deal-making became toxic inside Iran. The state's suspicion of Western promises hardened. The internal debate sharpened. Were negotiators naive, or were they simply working within impossible constraints? In 2021, after Iran's political transition under a more hardline presidency, Araghchi was replaced from his top negotiating role. In systems like Iran's, removal is not always a defeat. Sometimes it is a repositioning. He stepped back from the spotlight, but he did not disappear from the architecture of power.